Israel launched a bunch of rockets into Iran in retaliation for Iran sending a bunch of drone bombs over to Israel. It does look like maybe this Saturday the Senate is looking to vote on their big national security bill. It includes aid to Ukraine, Israel, humanitarian aid to Gaza, and Taiwan. It also includes the TikTok ban bill. Does Israel have the right to defend itself? I don't give a fuck. Are the Palestinians being held and corrupt? I don't give a fuck. Is Ukraine going to get taken over? I don't care. I don't care. I'll figure that out. I'm fucking tired of being the world's police, okay? I have zero interest in going to war. None. Not for Palestine, not for Israel, not for Ukraine, not for Taiwan. Rumors that China's going to come and bomb our infrastructure. Let me go ahead and translate that for you. It means that our own government's probably going to take down our infrastructure, and then they're going to blame China to keep us afraid and to keep us perfectly complacent with sending our tax dollars to God knows wherever the fuck wherever. I stand with the American poors. Poors whose dreams of owning a home are forever diminishing while migrants from other countries come across the border and get free housing. I stand with the American poors. Poors who can't put food on the table or fill up their gas tank without overdrawing their account. I stand with the American poors. Poors who can't or won't have children because it would be financially ruining for them to do so. Poors who are more and more every day scared to walk down the street for fear that they're going to be attacked because of the rampant crime that's being allowed to happen in our major cities. The poors who wake up every single day and go to work for a company to make pennies on the dollar while their CEOs and CFOs have big meetings about how they can incorporate AI in order to replace those positions anyway. I stand with the American poors. The poors who can 50% of their wages go to taxes. Then those taxes go to other countries for humanitarian aid and for defense systems. Where's our humanitarian aid? Where was Laken Riley's defense system? The poors who are keenly aware of the child trafficking issue that we've got going on in this country, and they sit back and watch their leaders do absolutely nothing about it. The poors who are worried about their toxins in their foods and in their water and in their air, can't afford to live but can't afford to die either. Sit back and ingest the things that are meant to keep them alive, which are actually slowly killing them, forcing them to become a part of the big pharma cycle repeatedly over and over and over again for years, for generations. I stand with the fucking American poors, tired of being beat up and beat down and manipulated and gaslit by the people that we elected in order to help keep us safe, down by the very system, the very people that are supposed to help us live this American dream that they tout so much on the back of their campaign flyers. I'm tired of being gaslit and manipulated and lied to by the media and the puppet master pulling the strings. No, I will not eat cereal for dinner. No, we will not be quiet while you send our tax dollars to anybody else but Americans. Oh, I will not buy into your fear mongering about wars and catastrophic events that are going to happen to our infrastructure that you're actually going to do and then blame on another country so you can keep us afraid and compliant. So we just keep sending you our tax dollars so that you can keep us safe. Oh, we won't comply. We won't take your drugs. We won't Netflix and chill. And we're not going to eat the cake. The American citizens deserve more than the scraps that you're feeding us that you stole from us in the first place. All I can do is make this video and express my non-compliance so that other people feel comfortable expressing their non-compliance. Then that's all I can do. For now. Dear Mike Johnson and the rest of you assholes in Congress.
All right, I think we've got everybody here. Well, that's supposed to be here. So today is May 6, 2024, and we've got the premiere of season 2 happening right now. Shipwreck is here with us. Shipwreck, how are you?
Hello, I am doing super duper. How are you? Hi guys. Thanks for being here. I love your faces.
Yeah, I see a whole bunch of the Shipwreck crew are here. We've got some Conflict Radio people here. Puck Elf, Little Wolf, Sonia Brown, Chief Mate. How you doing? Let's see. Amy Lewis is here. Carnundrum is here. Dr. Strangelove is here. Raisa is here. King of Hunkamundu. Gilsey Junes. A bunch of you. Happy Plague Doctor. Welcome to Conflictor Recruit Status. Season 1 is going to be going into the archive soon. Once we get 5, 6, 7 episodes or whatever on season 2. Season 1 is going to go bye-bye. It's going to go into the members only section. So we're going to make all of that go away. Well, maybe except for a few of the top videos, but we're going to be taking care of that. So let's get into our season 2 premiere with Shipwreck. Shipwreck, what is going on? I love your X channel.
Thank you.
I absolutely love it.
Thank you.
Everything you post is just spot on. And to be honest, I don't think you could say half of what you say on this platform. So we're going to have to try to keep this YouTube friendly. So remember that even in the chat box, guys, try to keep it YouTube friendly because the algorithm hits up on that too. So we've got a lot going on. What got you to finally start talking?
Oh man. Some not appropriate for YouTube conversations that have to do with face coverings. It started back then. And so it started back in 2019. I was home with my kids and the pandemic. I mean, they were like, "Oh, it's a pandemic." And I'm like, "Okay, that sounds like it could be bad." And then all of a sudden we were having these daily, and then all of a sudden everybody had to wear a mask. And none of that, like off the bat, none of that made any sense to me at all. And I have never really paid attention to politics or anything like that before that. I just lived my life. We just did what we did. I just didn't. But when they came out with the masks and they were like, these masks, you have to wear these masks wherever you go. And the mask thing really started to make no sense. Like our kids' schools would, when they were allowed to go back to school, they had mask mandates that following year, and they had like the wrestlers were wearing masks and the football players were wearing masks, and they were trying to justify it and by saying, well, but then the spit doesn't, I'm like, but they're covered in sweat. And the way that people, like, you got the fluoride stare, right? I'm like, but that doesn't make sense because they're covered in sweat. They're spitting on each other, and people just ate it up. It was the masks that initially got me in. And then I had met a friend, and that friend had sent me the Alpha of the Cabal. That she sent me that whole video. Have you heard of that? Where
No,
they talk
I
about
haven't. You'll have to send it to me in a message.
It's on, and a lot of people in the comments probably know what I'm talking about, but it's on Rumble, and it's like this docu-series of a lady, and she talks about the media manipulation, and she talks about just all of this stuff, and then it kind of gets into the Q stuff, and it gets into like the trafficking stuff, and it's a whole series, Out of the Shadows and all of this stuff. And I watched
Out of the
whole
Shadows
series.
was what my wife and I watched that kind of got us into, and then I think we got into the Fall of the Cabal series, and that's
Correct.
a whole nother series that we probably shouldn't even have mentioned on here.
That's why I'm trying to be really careful. I don't want you to get, hammered. I was telling you backstage, like our channel is about done. We just can't go anywhere. But those were, and I sat, because we were locked down, kids were out of school, we had nothing to do. So I sat and I watched these docuseries that she had sent me, and my mind was kind of blown. I was like, oh man, right? Because I'd always kind of heard of things like, I always questioned the death of Michael Jackson when that happened. And I remember when Macaulay Culkin came out and was making some accusations and all of this stuff. And then they made him sound crazy. And I remember all of this. I never really looked into it. And all this whole docuseries kind of broke it down. And then they were doing these daily press conferences at the same time. The governors were, and Trump was, when it came to COVID. And I can remember I was folding laundry and I was listening to one of these press conferences where Trump, or one of these speeches that he was doing, and I would listen to the whole thing. I listened to it live, and it was just kind of playing in the background because I never really watched the news. I never really watched any of it. It was just playing in the background. And then I managed, like later that afternoon, I turned on, I think it was CNN, and they were like, oh, Trump said this, and he was making fun of the handicap guy. And I'm like, I watched that live. That's not what happened. Like at all. Like I went back and rewatched it again because I'm like, I'm sure that's not, and it's not what happened. But the media had made such a huge deal of it, and it was all taken out of context. And it was at that point I'm like, okay, well, what else is going? Like, what else has the media kind of been blowing out of context? Because again, I hadn't been paying too much attention to it. And I started to really start paying attention to what the media was saying versus what was happening. And everything just kind of fell into line with these docuseries. And I'm like, well, bet. So they're just lying the whole time. And then I got curious. I'm like, well, when did this start? And Project Mockingbird. And when did that start? And I started to research going back and back and back. And because I wanted to know, like, when did we okay for the media to just start coming out here and lying to the people? When did that, become okay? And then it just picked up from there. I had started a TikTok right around lockdown, right around COVID. And it started off as mom content where I would make like mom jokes and different recipes. And I was just doing mom content. And it wasn't really getting anywhere. But I had made one video about the masks and how just hypocritical a lot of it was. How it didn't make any sense. And that video went viral. And I had found my people, because at the time I was living in a small town that were all masked up. And I was like kicked out of Facebook groups because I was questioning, like, why are we doing this to the kids? It's already been said, that the kids aren't detrimentally affected. They aren't asymptomatic carriers. And they kicked me out of the Facebook group. I had found my people on TikTok. And a lot of these people that are in the comments were there from the very beginning when it was running a tight shipwreck. And then we started to talk about it. And then as I would make videos and we would start to point out the hypocrisy around it, we would start to point out these other studies from these other doctors that were being silenced, like the one in Minnesota, he's my favorite, that were being silenced. My videos would go down. And I would get hit with restrictions, and I would get my accounts. I'd been through 30 TikTok accounts at that point. And my accounts would get banned simply because I was reading off these other studies, which countered the mainstream narrative that was being put out there, which is that everybody needs a mask. You all need to stay home 6 feet apart, which we all know now.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
It may have not have been the best thing. Again, we're going to find out more information about that in June when Fauci goes back to Congress. But now everybody's kind of moved on from COVID. And so is it really going to matter? Like, people forget so quickly that we're going to drag Fauci. Everybody wanted this dude like hung, like they were all mad at him. Right. And now he's going to be in front of Congress. And I don't even know if anybody's going to watch. And is he's going to be held accountable? I doubt it, but
he'll lie. He's going to lie. He's going to say something and perjure himself. That's for sure. We know that's coming.
He gets so fight. Yeah, but he perjured himself last time and he's still out here and he's got MSNBC doing a whole like Fauci retirement documentary on. I mean, it's just kind of gross. And once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. And it just gets grosser and grosser and grosser. And eventually you get to the point you can't even watch it anymore. And so that's why we started the show. And that's why I started doing my videos, because I felt like a lot of what the news was putting out wasn't accurately portraying the events that were happening.
Yeah.
And
that happened back in August 8th, 2008. I don't know if anybody remembers this, when that's when I first woke up, was when I guess Russia was attacking Georgia, is what the line was. And
right.
If anybody who's ever looked into that knows that that's total bullshit. That's not what happened. I mean, the South Ossetia was pretty much its own little country. They all spoke Russian. They all had Russian passports. It was a lot like Eastern Ukraine is today.
Right.
Steve, this is the stuff that we're talking about that's going to get me in trouble, of course. But I mean,
right.
we're gonna roll with it. I have no strikes right now, and if they take this down, then I'll just pop a couple things out and repost it, I guess.
Yeah, that's about all you can do. That's why I streamed to every I mean, we streamed on X. I stream on Rumble. We streamed on all of them because we couldn't. I don't know how many strikes did we get on YouTube? I think we've had 4 or 5. We've been on suspension for a few months. We've been demonetized YouTube, out of all of the social media platforms, YouTube has been the absolute worst for me.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to that kind of stuff. It's
Google. It's Google.
It's good. Yeah, it's Google. Correct. It's Google. And I can't with YouTube anymore. I get tired of fighting with them and even TikTok, like TikTok and I, man, we fought, right? We fought back and forth. We fought for years.
See, I'm surprised that TikTok was giving you issues. Isn't that the whole reason why they're trying to ban TikTok now, is because they can't get any of this stuff taken down?
It used to not be that way. So when TikTok originally started to take off, when we originally joined and it started to take off, TikTok was part of the, they call it the CCP. I don't really know for a fact, but I do know that when we started TikTok and we would start to post videos, they would come down pretty frequently. I would lose counts pretty frequently. But when Trump, at the end of his career as the president, when they were threatening the first ban of TikTok, and Trump had made that deal with Oracle to send the American information over to Oracle to keep it out of the hands of the CCP, quote unquote, things started to change. And all of a sudden, my videos that were talking about certain topics wouldn't go down so quickly anymore. And I could talk about things in a certain way and those videos wouldn't get hammered. Now, there are still, you have to be real careful how you word things. I can't come out here. Israel's kind of a hot button right now. You can't, even if you are for Israel, if you say certain words, your video is going to get hammered, right? But after that had happened, things started to change on TikTok quite a bit, which I found really interesting. But no, before that, TikTok was the worst. I don't know. We lost so many accounts on TikTok. And then, but now this account that I have now, I've had for knock on wood, 2 years. So
Yeah,
it's
because
not
Trump's
always
been
been
gone.
well, and
You
that's
know, and
that's
this,
kind
let
of
me go
it,
ahead and
right?
say this, because this is what's kind of, I don't know, it just irks me a little bit. See, when COVID was first coming out, remember the videos that China was posting? They were like people walking down the street and they would just fall over dead on the road. And they said, this is what COVID's doing to people, blah, blah, blah. That really
Hmm.
freaked me out. When COVID first came around, I mean, I don't think that they would have been able to lock us all down for as long as they did without that propaganda that they
Yeah,
were
but then
obviously
didn't
working
they
with
figure
China
out
with.
that those videos were from something else?
Oh, probably, but at the
I think they
time,
did.
that was really freaking a lot of people out. And
Yeah.
you got to wonder if they weren't working with China in some way, even with the release of the flu, or whatever you want to say it is, even with the release of that, just to try to get Trump out of there.
I don't know. I'm a great awakening person, I guess. And so there's two different theories that are going on when it comes to COVID and COVID kind of kicking off these two different theories. The first theory is the New World Order theory, right? And that was supposed to kind of kick off with COVID. So Hillary Clinton was supposed to win in 2016, and then we would have kicked off with the COVID pandemic in 2020, and then that would have carried us into a socialist country going from 2020 on. So we were supposed to, but it was supposed to be kind of a slow roll, right? It was supposed to be 10 years. We were supposed to be locked down according to this one study or this one yeah, it was a study that I read about this plan that they had, this theory. We were supposed to be locked down well into 2024. And then in 2024, they were going to start, we're still supposed to be locked down, according to the New World Order theory. And then you were going to start to see the censorship on social media, and you were going to start to see it was supposed to be the slow roll of a socialist like regime change. Things were supposed to, and then like the liberal ideology was supposed to be introduced over time, so it wasn't so shocking, so it didn't get so much pushback. But what had happened is Trump had won in 2016, and so when 2020 hit, they had to like push everything out like right away. And it all just came bam, bam, bam. And it was so shocking to people that everybody started to wake up, and it almost like it backfired, right? It turned into a great awakening. I am a great awakening person. And so I believe that everything that we are experiencing from 2020, 2016, and up to now is being done in a way that it's some of it being done, a lot of it's being done intentionally in a way to wake up the masses in a grand scale of things, to wake people up to see what a socialist, because if you talk to people who believe in socialism and communism, they sugarcoat it in this great, like everybody's equal and we all get equal food and we all get equal stuff. But we all know that's not how it worked in the other countries that have tried it, and we all know that's not how it's going to work fucking here, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of this great awakening. Okay, so you're getting a little taste of what socialism looks like. You're getting a little taste of what communism looks like. Like you couldn't post certain things on Twitter 1.0, or your whole account went down. It didn't matter if you were monetized. It didn't matter if that's how you made your livelihood. You could lose it, and there was nothing you could do about it. And I think the first part of this was to wake up a lot of us that just weren't paying attention, because we just weren't. We were busy with life. But now I think we're in this second half where you're actually waking up, like the quote unquote liberal side. Because if you notice, like a lot of these protests that you got going on, you got the pro-Palestine protests, right? They're all liberals. They all want to save Gaza, whatever.
Well,
But
you're seeing a lot of that on the far right too. And there's
well, but you notice they're all united around that they hate Joe Biden and the Joe Biden administration, and a lot of them are going to be voting for Trump because he can bring peace to the Middle East again.
and they're
So
gonna have to replace Biden.
very
He
interesting.
literally pooped himself outside
I
the
saw
White House
that
the other
video.
night.
I saw that where he's just walking out. I
Yeah.
don't think they're going to replace him. I know what people are saying. I think there's going to be an election. I don't think they're going to replace him. I think this is endgame. I think you are going to see a regime change, a change in the way things are done. But I think that's going to be done after 2024 with when the investigations on how the voting system works can be done out in the open and in a way that can actually make change. I don't, everybody's saying it. And people are saying it so often that they're going to replace Biden, that it doesn't matter in 2024 because people are just going to cheat again, that there is not going to be an election. It's being said so fucking often that I'm at a point with it, and a lot of my commenters, that I'm almost kind of convinced that that kind of verbiage is Democratic propaganda to get people not to get involved in the 2024 election and to stay home and to be apathetic, because I see it that much with no proof. You got no proof that there's not going to be an election. You have speculation. You can speculate all day long.
Well,
I think we were supposed to go into.
I think they would rather get us into a nuclear war than to let Trump take office again.
Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense either. Why would you get us into a nuclear war? Why would you threaten the United States of America with a nuke? Why would you nuke any part of the United States of America? You're going to lose all of that, anything good that comes from that area. The area you decide to nuke, what? It doesn't matter if it's Texas. That doesn't make any sense. And if they were going to do it, then they would have done it. And they would have done it by now. If we were going to go into World War III, I really do believe they would have done it when Russia, quote unquote, invaded Ukraine. And we didn't go to war because enough people pushed back. People don't want to go to war. And they need the public support to go to war. They need people to hang the ribbons and to make the ammunition like they did way back when. They need people bought in and patriotic and supported, and nobody was. And in fact,
and don't you think that that's what they're doing? That this whole thing could possibly be a big ruse just to get all the MAGA people gun ho when Trump takes office, and then all of a sudden we're in a war with China?
No, I don't. I don't think that's going to happen either. We would need Congress's approval in order to formally declare war with another country. And well, I don't see that happening. I just don't.
That didn't happen for Iraq, did it?
So this is where it gets kind of hairy. They did formally declare war against Iraq. What do they call it? The war on terror? Isn't that what he called it, Bush? Yeah. So they did formally, and Congress, I think, did get on board with that. I'd have to go back and look. But where it comes, this is more of like a Vietnam style thing. And I guess a lot of things had changed. Like the president can do wartime actions, but if you want to like enact a draft, or if you want to do other certain, like it has to go through Congress. I had to go read up on all this because people had me fearmongered into a corner thinking my kids were going to have to be drafted. But that's what I learned.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
And I think everybody's talking about it so much that wouldn't it be something if we got all the way to November, if we had the debates, right? I don't know if debates are going to happen or not, but if just nothing happened, no false flag, nothing. Like they're building everybody up to get them all riled up and to keep them afraid and to keep them in fear and to keep them from voting and to keep them,
No, do you think that's what's going to happen?
What's that?
I mean,
nothing.
We've been the next 6 months I think are going to be fire. I mean, I think Red October is coming. I think I
heard that last October.
You know what? I never said it.
I know.
Everybody that I was talking to at the time, I even said it on the show. I said the October before the last election, which would be 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 Octobers ago, I said if it doesn't happen this October, we're going to have to wait 2 years.
I know
everybody likes saying that because it was clickbait. I've seen a lot of people doing it. It's clickbait.
That's what I'm saying. Like everybody says it. Everybody says it so much, and I don't know how they could pull off a false flag effectively and have everybody just believe it. You need people to believe this shit because the bottom line with what like your swamp, your leader, whatever you want to call them, the bottom line is they need you afraid and they need you off center and they need you living in fear. And nobody really is right now. Nobody's afraid of going to, people are just tired, I think. But I think people talk about it so much that there's no way they could pull off. There's like, if you think back to 9/11, take 9/11 and let's say 9/11 happened tomorrow. and with social media and the internet, and everybody has the capability, everybody's got a cell phone camera, everybody's got the capability of zooming in and figuring out what's AI and what's not. And do you think that they could pull off something like 9/11 scale tomorrow? I don't. People are too smart now.
Well,
I
mean, what about these reports? And I'm hearing a lot of things that there's upwards of 800,000 plus of foreign soldiers already here in this country.
Who did you hear that from?
Bards.
Of what?
Bards FM. This is other podcasts I listen to. I mean, we already know that there's like 50,000. I mean, the Chinese are streaming across our border.
Right.
I mean, what
but
could you imagine? Could you imagine?
That's been going on for years, though, right?
Yeah,
immigration's been a problem for years.
But could you imagine 800,000 lone gunmen unleashing inside the country at one time? And then at the same time, you've got our grid going down. You've got our phones going down. Nobody knows what's going on. You have no electricity, no phone, no internet. So you don't have any idea that this is happening. And this is happening.
So what would the point of that be?
There you go. Now everybody's scared.
Yeah, everybody's scared. Even just putting that out there, everybody's scared. I don't think that's going to happen. That doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that?
Well, because I mean, the United States actually does have enemies. I mean, it's not all
Sure.
fake news. I mean,
we definitely
China
have
definitely wants Taiwan, and they definitely want to see us toppled. And I honestly don't think we're going to be able to get out of this when the dollar's going to have to collapse. Don't you think?
I do. The whole dollar thing is not really my wheelhouse. Like I don't talk much about the dollar. Like they're trying to push through the digital coin. They want everything to be done online.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even if that's done, I mean, the whole world's going to a gold-backed currency. Everybody's going gold. I mean, the BRICS system's getting ready to release their own currency. It's going to be gold-backed.
But isn't that what everybody wants?
The people, I do. I'd rather go to work and work for silver. I'd rather work for silver quarters than this paper crap money that they're giving me today. Yeah, I think that's what we want, but that's going to be chaos at first.
Yeah.
I mean, look how it was Russia's actually doing pretty good over there now with their ruble, but at the time it crashed. It was absolute chaos over there. Everybody was broke as shit. Took time to get out of that. I guess we'll see
you think people are broke as shit now?
Oh no, it's going to get worse. They're raising taxes and everything. It's going to get a lot worse. I think people are broke as shit now. Yeah, it's in this country. We're all broke. They're squeezing us for every last dime that they can get. Why else would he come in and shut off our oil like he did? That was the stupidest thing you could do.
You're talking about Biden?
You think it's a uniparty that's actually, you think Biden and these people are doing what's best for the American country, or do you think they're doing what's best for their new world order?
I think that they've been doing what's best for themselves for a really, really long time, and the masses as a whole just haven't been aware of it until now.
Hopefully the masses are aware of it. I mean, there's still a lot of people that are sleeping.
You got more Gen Z sitting around watching congressional hearings because they're going to ban TikTok than you ever would, especially anybody since I was a kid. We never had to watch that dumb shit. They're all sitting around watching it now. Everybody knows who their Congress member is. I mean, I do think that I don't see an attack on our power grid. I had a guy on our show a while back. He was retired Marine, and that's his whole thing. He comes on these videos and he says, "Are we in World War III yet?" And then he breaks down why we're not in World War III and why this can't happen and and he does it from like a military standpoint and his understanding. I think there's a lot of fear porn about the grid going down, but I don't see the point in it. I don't know why you would have a bunch of illegals come in and then you'd shut the grid down and hold everybody hostage. And I don't see how you could do that. I see maybe doing it in New York City. I see maybe doing it in a major city. You could do something like that. But as far as a country, like the whole entire country, everybody's power grid, and how many firearms per household?
It's gonna be a bloodbath.
How many firearms per household do Americans have? I saw a statistic. You ever see that?
Yeah, it's a
I
lot.
wanted to say it was like 3 per American home. There are like 3 guns per American home or something like that, or per American on average.
Yeah, I'm above.
I mean, that would take. There would be. You wouldn't win. And I don't know about the numbers too. Like everybody's saying, millions and millions of these illegals. But how do we know? Who's counting them?
Oh, I'm sure that they're being counted, aren't they? They're going on the books.
They're not even being tracked. Who the hell is going to count them? They openly admitted they're not tracking them.
Yeah.
And that was one of people's biggest gripes is we have no idea where these people went. We're not tracking them. We don't know who they are. I see videos of just random people jumping off of boats in California and running into the city. Is it really millions, or is it hundreds, or is it? And illegal immigration has been a point of contention every election year since I've been alive. I feel like this comes of this and abortion. All of a sudden, it's a hot button again.
That's a hot button, right? You know, right. I think that's the way it should be, though. It should go back to the states.
Absolutely, it should. It was ridiculous that it was ever a federal government. I honestly don't think it should be left up to any government entity. I think that's the whole thing is kind of.
We got to get rid of the Department of Education as well.
Yeah,
that's got to go bye. This is, what they're doing to our kids is ridiculous. I can't believe people still have their kids in school.
See, we have our kids in school. I kept them home for a year after the COVID mask mandates because I didn't want them wearing masks. But they wanted to go back, and we sent them back. And actually, our school is, we're in a small town. I think, again, it really depends on the school, and it depends on the state.
It does.
I
have a stepdaughter that's a senior, and she's in the regular school here, but I'm in Alabama,
Yeah, I'm in Iowa. So it's like, and not Des Moines. My kids don't have they've never come home, and they're pretty open about things. They talk to me about all kinds of things, and they've never said anything. I've never seen anything concerning. I pay a lot more of attention to what my kids are learning in school now than I ever have, because of COVID, and then because of the liberal ideology that started coming, like Libs of TikTok with her. I start paying a lot of attention to what my kids are bringing home and what they're talking about and their friends that they're hanging out with, and and I never really, I guess, I was raised, I was born in 83, and it was kind of like we just ran the streets. Our parents weren't home, and when it came to our kids, it was kind of the same thing. But once I started to pay attention, and the COVID stuff really got me paying attention to what my kids were learning in school, because then they had to homeschool for a while because they kicked the kids out of school, right?
Yeah.
And so then I'm sitting at home and I'm helping them do this Zoom, and I'm like, this is all just very
easy,
and it's easy, right? And then we ended up leaving that school and moving here because the whole mask thing. And I'm like, well, this is just, it was kind of silly. But our kids really liked school. We did homeschool for a year. They really liked it. They wanted to go back. And so we agreed to let them go back when we moved here. And we had a big meeting with the school, and we had conversations with them. And so far it's been fantastic. They've been there 2 years. My 5th grader is bringing home papers on the Constitution, and they're doing science projects, and it's nothing weird. There's no kitty litter boxes in the bathroom. There's no drag queens in the library. It's just a small town school. I think it really depends on the school, and I think it really depends on the state and the city that you're in. But the Department of Education, I guess I'm going to have to agree with you on that too, and not so much because of the liberal ideology, but like the Department of Education holds a lot of our public teachers to a lot of really ridiculous standard and pointless standards. And so teachers feel like our teachers feel like they can't openly teach the kids how they need to learn because the Department of Education tells them they have to teach them one certain way and only one certain way. And so their hands are kind of tied in a lot of different situations. And I think the Department of Education gets a lot of money, but they're not, they don't put it to, I think I looked up this, the president of the Department of Education, $1 million a year. So I have to look that back up. But her school fighting for every tooth nail they can get for their funding. It's
Well,
I don't know
a lot of schools got money because they were putting in these restrictions.
the mask
I
mandates. You
know
mean?
Alabama A&M got millions and millions of dollars that they built a new coliseum with just for imposing mask mandates.
Yeah. See, our school did too. And this was a little small town elementary school that we came before we moved here. We had found out after the fact that they were getting kickbacks for implementing these mandates, and they were getting kickbacks for putting jab, because the school that we came from, the reason we left was because they put a jab clinic in the middle school gym, and they were giving away coffee cards to the high schoolers and the middle schoolers who would agree to get a jab for COVID. And we had to sign permission slips if we wanted them to get this, but they had a clinic set up in the middle school. There was a doctor's office a block away. Like, I didn't understand why we were giving kids an experimental jab in the gym of a middle school and then giving them coffee cards afterwards, and making the kids who didn't get it feel like shit because they wouldn't get it. And we left. We homeschooled after that for a little while because that was crap. And I
see Scott here on the comments just made a good point. He said he's never had nuke drills. How long do you think before they start doing nuke drills in our school again?
I don't think
just
they will.
ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? You have to get underground.
So I don't think the nuke thing is going to come back.
Yeah.
I know that there was a lot of weapons of mass destruction, fear porn, and then the Cold War and the nuclears, and it's like, I just don't. I think if you're gonna look at something, it's gonna be aliens. And I hate to go. I don't know where you stand on that topic, but
we're gonna get into that here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be extraterrestrial, quote unquote. But if you've researched like Dr. Greer or any of the Eisenhower?
Scary stuff.
What's that?
Greer says some scary stuff.
He does. I watched a whole couple press conferences he gave, but was it Eisenhower that had met with the Greys? I can't remember. I think it was, but they thought he went to the dentist, but he met with the Greys. But there's like all this history, and a lot of it comes down to nuclear wars, and a lot of it went back to that. So the extraterrestrials, they don't like us having the nuclear wars, and so there's a theory out there that comes from a whole lot of people who study this kind of stuff that I don't fully understand. But the theory goes is that if we ever get close to that nuclear,
they'll stop it.
They'll stop it. Because they depend on our planet and they don't want it ruined. And
so do you think that they're from another planet?
No, I think they're from another dimension.
Yeah, so do I.
I'm not sold on the planet thing.
Yeah.
I think the dimensions, I think when you think of planets, I think the planets themselves would be different dimensions. I think there is a space to a certain extent. I just don't know what that extent is. I don't think the world is flat. I get asked that a lot. I do not think the world is flat.
Yeah, but we really don't know.
But we really don't, and we really never will.
Yeah, I don't know if the world's flat or not either. But unless I go up into space and see it for myself, I don't know.
Correct.
I mean, it could be. I have no idea.
I've read a lot of things about different dimensions and timelines and how these all kind of like run at the same time and everything kind of. And I believe it has more to do with that than it does with spaceships. I think if there are beings, I think there absolutely are beings. I think it has more to do with the water in the ocean. They come up from the ocean, not so much from the sky.
Yeah, or they're hiding under the ice.
Of Antarctica?
Yeah.
It could, and that could be too. I'd be more concerned about them releasing some kind of disease out of the ice before I'm worried about them releasing some kind of demonic entity like Gilgamesh.
Yeah, well,
They'll maybe
there's
heal
a
the
lot of
wounds.
people that think that these entities are actually fallen angels. Where do you sit on the biblical side of this?
The Nephilims.
Yeah.
So I think Bigfoots that we see could possibly be Nephilims or giants. I think they're all the same thing. I think that um I think the Nephilims are still here. I think it possibly could be like a Bigfoot that people see, or even like your skinwalkers. Um, it goes along with the giants conversation too. And I think there's different species of each.
Yeah.
I think you got some that are good and some that are bad. I think our national parks house a lot of these things. And I read, I read something a while back. And again, I think it was the same Eisenhower thing. And I can't remember if I don't have my computer up. Quote me, somebody in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong about that. But where they had agreed, these beings, these Nephilims, these giants, these Bigfoots, they all agreed to stay in these national forests, hundreds, thousands of acres of national forests. And we agreed to sacrifice percentages of the population to these things
Well, we're just
every
some
year.
foolies, aren't we? I mean,
What's that?
we put the Indians in reservations. We got Bigfoot in the national park reservations as well.
Correct. And I think
Crazy.
that and I read this whole thing on it, and it was wild. But that's what they believed. And then we would sacrifice. So like when you listen to like Missing 411, right? I think it's
Yeah.
Palacides or whatever his name is. Like thousands, millions of people just go randomly missing in these national parks every single year, right? I think that's part of it. I think another part of it, like the alien abductions, don't come from space. I think they come from other dimensions, and we commit a certain population of that to be able to do that, so that humans can be studied or watched or tracked. And I think there was an agreement with our government way, way back when that allowed these other beings to do that, as long as they returned the humans unhurt. But then the other beings, they did not stick to their part of the contract on that, and they ended up hurting people and killing people. And even Tucker Carlson said that some higher up officials that he had talked to had said that these beings had killed people.
Yeah,
And people had been hurt.
I heard that they're actually not talking to us anymore, that they're teaming up with China.
That could be too. We get so, here's where I stand on China, right? I got one congressman out here telling me that we need to be, who was Nikki Haley? We need to be hard on China. We need to come down on China. We need to stop China. And then I got China over here just buying up all of our farmland and letting Temu run ads on my Super Bowl on my phone, right?
Yeah.
They want to ban TikTok to protect your information from China, but we're gonna let what's his name sleep with the Chinese spy, and we're not gonna hold him accountable at all. We're gonna let the congressman, what's his name? Oh my God, what's his name? He blanked out at a press. I'm blanking out now.
Oh, McConnell.
We're gonna let Mitch McConnell marry a Chinese shipping department head. And just yeah, are we coming down? Are we hard on China, or are we not? Because that's where the confusion. I don't think we should be afraid of China at all. I don't. I think they're already here.
I honestly think they just want us to leave them alone.
I think the same thing. I think there's a lot of propaganda about China, just like there is from Russia, and I think a lot of it's bullshit.
Well,
I think they want us afraid of these other countries so they don't see the legislation and the Patriot Acts that they're pushing through, right? In order to take away more and more and more of our freedoms, in order to turn us in to what they say that China is. There's no way that I know that China is like that, because I've never been to China. And the whole being afraid of other countries and other countries are going to come get us, instead of watching what our own government is doing directly to you. It's got to be the biggest psyop I have ever seen in my whole life. It's China. Ever since I was a kid, we have been taught to be afraid of Russia. Russia's going to nuke us. They're going to invade the United States. Russia just wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
Like they want to get stopped for blaming things. Like I'm done talking about
everything.
They do. And we find out, so they're like, well, Russia's invading Ukraine, and Ukraine is just this little country and save democracy. But then Sam Bankman-Fried, right, gets popped for his crypto scheme. And then in the downfall of that, we find out that the bank account that our government is sending aid to Ukraine to, out of that same bank account, that money is sent right back to the United States under the guise of political donations.
Yeah.
And we all stand back here and we're like, now hold the fuck up, right? No. I'm done with the international conversations. I'm sick of talking about Israel and Palestine. I just read an article that one of the main agitators for the pro-Palestine rallies, the one that broke into Columbia school and damaged a bunch of stuff, the main agitator, the biggest bad guy, right? The loudest guy, 40 years old, this guy is. Okay, he's a self-proclaimed antagonist. He owns a multi-million-dollar townhome. He's a soy boy who is a billionaire's son, a tech billionaire, or not an advertising billionaire's son. He's 40. What was he doing in the college campus to begin with? He has no ties to Gaza, no ties to Palestine.
That's all Soros.
I think the whole thing is fake. I think it's all fake. I think Israel and Gaza, I think Israel and Palestine, they've been going at it for 100 years. And all of a sudden we care. Like all of a sudden we give a shit. Now we got to be afraid of Iran again too, right? Because Iran, they're going to retaliate and we need to go save our ally. If you think for 1 second, I am going to send any of my kids to war for Israel, you're out of your mind. Israel might be the homeland of some of you people, but the United States of America is the homeland of mine. And I will open myself up to a draft and send my kids to fight for Texas before I go and send them to fight for Israel.
Yeah.
The whole thing is ridiculous. And it's causing more division, more fear, more bullshit. And it's getting kind of gross.
Well, we need to learn how to mind our own business. I think.
I'm tired of being the world's police.
Yeah, exactly.
Like and I got so much heat for that. I was kind of surprised, like, because we were coming straight out of Ukraine. And we were finally to a point with Ukraine. Sorry, I got caught in,
That's all
caught
right.
in my throat. We were finally at a point with Ukraine where we were recognizing the propaganda. We were seeing them on Snapchat. They were all drinking fancy coffees. And that the war, it's just, the war didn't seem real. Right. And people were like, some of this is making any more sense. We were right at the end of that. And then all of a sudden, we got to go to, and the same people who agreed with me on Ukraine suddenly just jumped on the bandwagon of saving Israel. And I'm out here and I'm like, this seems a little weird. And I'm not saying October 7th didn't happen, but what I am saying is that there was a stand down order from Netanyahu to let these quote unquote terrorists in to do all this dirty work.
I agree with you. And a lot of that too was I heard that the helicopters that were flying over that concert were just opening fire on everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, they wasted a lot of their own people. There's lawsuits in court saying that, that this happened.
Same thing happened in Ukraine. Yeah. Same thing happened in Ukraine. All the footage we were getting from the war in Ukraine of the bombs that turned out to be the Ukrainian government bombing its own people. Yeah, and we only found that out thanks to social media and people who are smarter than I am and in higher positions of the military than I am, breaking down, like zooming in on the plane, breaking down where that plane come from, who got a hold of it. And they found out that the planes were old donated planes from the USSR to Ukraine. Ukraine was bombing their own people. And people, they got so fired up about Israel. And they were like, Israel's my homeland and the Jews. And I'm like, well, I'm not Jewish and I don't have any ties to Israel. But my country is falling apart and nobody's protesting for that. So, and they're like, well, if you're not standing with Israel, you're anti-American. I'm like, that doesn't make any damn sense either.
Yeah, or you're being anti-Semitic.
Yeah, you hard pass on that. I stand.
We'll pass a bill to make it illegal for you to even say.
Yeah, wasn't that crazy? That'll never make it through the Senate.
Well,
I turned my notifications on for that.
We'll see, right?
We'll see, but you can't. So I can't criticize Israel. I can't criticize Jewish people. I can't criticize the Jewish man on X who was grinding up on what was a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah, or the Senate.
I can't criticize
the senators or congressmen that are wearing their Israeli army uniforms to our to our Congress and our House of Representatives.
Oh, right. We didn't talk about Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson, he's made Speaker of the House, right? After a long battle, whatever. First thing he does, first words out of his mouth when he got up there after he became Speaker was how he stood with Israel. And I about threw up. Because I'm like, Americans are drowning on both sides. Like, and I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, they're all out here complaining about it. Like, interest rates are sky high. Nobody can find a job, like a good job, a decent job, a real job. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to stand with Israel? You great big pile of dog crap? Like,
Yeah. And
what are you doing?
meanwhile, Black Rock, Huntsville used to be an affordable town to live in. But Black Rock came down here right after COVID and started they built like 30 or 40 different massive apartment complexes. They're charging $2,000 a month for a one bedroom, and if they sit empty, then they'll just write it off on their taxes. But in the meantime, they've driven up the cost of living in town here to where it's probably no cheap. You can't go anywhere anymore, and there's a difference in price. Like, you used to be able to, if you didn't want to pay $5,000 a rent, in New Jersey, you can move to Oklahoma City and pay, $600 a month rent there. I bet you can't get anything in Oklahoma City for $600 now. Everything's becoming the same price. It doesn't matter where you go anymore. It's all going to become the same price.
Correct. Yeah,
that's BlackRock doing that.
You were right. Like, in the beginning, I think a lot of what's being said about wars and bombs and infiltration and, hide your kids, hide your wife, I think a lot of that is fear porn, to keep people afraid. But you are right. When it comes to that type of things, are going to get worse before they get better. And I guess we will find out come November, if we're going to be full blown into the New World Order, or if this is indeed the Great Awakening.
Well, I heard that they're actually passing laws now. They're trying to pass these laws in these swing states that make the counting of the election stop at midnight.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, like they're getting ready to, and the National Republican Committee, I think is Laura Trump now. They've launched they've launched lawsuits to try to stop them from doing that.
Yeah, I think no, I didn't know that.
Why would they want to just stop counting at midnight?
Because they are going to want to cheat again. And I think that if anything has been really exposed, it was exposed because if you remember back in 2016, that was like the highlight of the 2016 winning of the election was Trump cheated with the help of Russia, right? Now we're in 2020, and it was Biden cheated with the help of, I don't know, the Democrats, right? I think when you get into 2024, depending on who wins, and I do think we'll have an election, and I do think there will be a winner, I think that is going to drastically change the way that voting is done in this country. And I think you are going to see, if Trump wins, I think you're going to see it done completely different. Whether they use like blockchain, I think somebody said once blockchain, or you're going to go back to the write-in ballots, or I think the entire system is going to be overhauled. And I don't know if that means our entire government is going to be overhauled, or if like our whole ideology of the republic is going to come back and get rid of the democracy. Because everyone's like, we're trying to save democracy. If this is democracy, man, I don't fucking want it. This is gross. I don't like it here. Like, let's try the republic thing out for a little while. I think you're going to see that change over the next, in the 2028.
The states that are actually trying to pass a law that says that their delegates will go with whoever wins the popular vote instead of whoever wins their state.
Right.
That's totally unconstitutional and illegal. And I think we need to get rid of these machines. We got to just go to hand paper ballots and hand counting. That's it.
We can mail-in voting. I don't know. I guess Iowa does mail-in voting. I didn't know that.
Well, so does Florida, but they do it. You have to have like notaries and everything, which I think is fine. If you have a legit reason to not be able to vote in person, do it the way Florida does it.
Right. Well, and I think you're going to see that change. I just don't know what it's, and I don't know if AI is going to be. That's what I could start seeing happening too. Is an entire system that is built with the help of artificial intelligence, which would be, I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know where I stand on AI just yet. Everything I read from the spiritual compound from like, we talked about like timelines and different things, says that AI is going to be very good for humans for the next, 50, 100 years. But everything that everybody talks about, it says it's going to be really bad. So I'm not really sure where I stand on AI, but I could definitely see AI being an intricate part in our voting system. I don't know that we're ever going to see it go back to strictly write-in ballots.
Well,
I think that
honestly, I think that the only way we're going to be able to save the human race is if the electricity goes out and the web goes down for like the next 10 years. Our kids are just, all they do is, have you seen these pictures of them? All they do is sit and stare at their tablets all day long.
well, that's a parenting problem though.
Yeah, well, because the parents would rather, give your kid the tablet and then go sit in their room and do whatever they want than actually like pay any attention to them. You know what I mean? We've gotten
I do to
so
a point.
lazy as society. We're
But what is
lazy as shit.
But what is shutting off the electricity gonna do?
Well, I mean, you get rid
Like,
of
what
the,
did- what did-
we go back to the old way of living that we lived for 20,000 years.
Right.
We get out there
But-
and we make our, we grow our own food and we cook our own food and, to hell with everything.
I don't know how old you are. So I'm Gen, I'd be like Gen Xennial. I was born in 83.
Yeah, I'm
And so-
almost 50. I'm Gen X.
So you're Gen X.
I grew up
So-
without phones and tablets, and it was awesome.
See, and I grew up without phones until my teenage years, until I was, I don't know, like 17, I think, or 8. I was 18 when I got my first phone. My first cell phone was like a Motorola. But I grew up without the electronics as well. And although I agree with you on a certain extent on that, on the other hand of it, could you imagine going through like a global pandemic where everybody's locked in their homes without it? So there's that. But the second part about it is that I think like my parents, I got into a lot of trouble all the time because my parents weren't home and I wasn't, we were never home in our rooms on video games or anything like that, right? We were always out and about, getting into a lot of trouble, putting ourselves in situations we weren't supposed to put ourselves into. I really do think it comes down to, I don't think going back to the dark ages is gonna solve anything. I think you're gonna have a lot more kids getting into trouble in other ways.
Yeah, but the new generation that comes up in that society would be much better off. You don't think?
I don't. I think you can't go backwards. I don't see how you could go backwards.
Well,
I guess
know,
man.
I don't think AI is going to end well for us. I mean, they're already talking about putting it in charge of our military.
Yeah, I read that too.
Like that's just so ridiculous. I mean, can we? I mean, we've seen the Terminator movies, right? We've seen.
Yeah, I know. I guess we'll see what happens. But I kind of look at that too. So right, like you said this, you just said we'll see. We remember the Terminator movies. There was another movie, iRobot. Remember iRobot, right?
Yeah.
But then I also, like, when I look at the whole aliens, we've been programmed our entire lives to believe that aliens are bad. And the aliens were going to come down and they were going to, how many movies did they create about aliens? The only one I think I remember with the alien being good was E.T. Phone Home. Every other alien movie was bad. They wanted you scared of aliens. And now as I've kind of researched this a little bit, and with the extraterrestrials and the interdimensional beings, the reality is, yeah, there are some bad ones, but for the most part, the majority of them either want to just be left alone, like we'll never coexist. We just want to be left alone and separate from each other, or they are good.
Well, they like studying us. That's for sure.
They do, and I think that. Give me 1 second.
Hybrids.
Where's your dad? Where'd he go? Oh, you went to pick up Owen? Okay, you're gonna have to wait. Thank you. Sorry, I got a kid in here bugging me. I think we've been programmed, and I think with AI, we have to be really careful that we're not programmed to believe that all AI is evil either. You know what I'm saying?
How much longer before Elon Musk has got a chip in everybody's head anyway?
Well, then that chip thing's a double-edged sword too. A chip would be great for someone who's a paraplegic if it can make them walk again.
Yeah, or like if you're able to just think about knowing a language and you can just download that language and you automatically know about it? You just
Yeah,
know
I
it?
would. I'm never gonna put a chip in my brain to do that. But if I was a paraplegic and I wanted to walk again and I wanted to gain back my independence, and putting a chip in my brain would enable me to do that, yes, I would sign up for a chip in my brain. Because what else you got to lose at that point? But am I gonna sign up for a chip in my brain so I could start my car with my eye? No, that's weird. And that's a slippery slope. No chance. No shot.
All right. So this is the time of the show where we're gonna let people ask some questions. So if you have
Sure.
any questions for Shipwreck, or you want to talk about what's on your mind, go ahead and put it in the comments section. I'll throw it up on the screen, and we'll talk about what you want to ask. So go for it, guys. Get started. And do you need to take a break or anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
It's storming,
I
so
was
I'm
gonna
just
say I can give you.
watching the rain.
Did the worst of it pass you yet?
I don't know if it has or not. It was supposed to start around 7, so probably. We're supposed to get another one come through about 8:30, quarter to 9, and I guess that one's supposed to be pretty bad.
Yeah,
They've
that's the
already
bad
sent
one.
out preventative warnings, so but we'll be done by then. And I got a basement.
Yeah, if anybody living in your area, I guess Iowa, Kansas, or Oklahoma, or any of those places, if you haven't anywhere to go for a
Mhm.
tornado, why are you not outside digging a hole right now? Like,
Yeah,
that's
you
how I
know,
was
my
telling my wife.
brother.
I was like, if we're renting, so obviously, we're screwed if anything happens. But I told my wife, like, if we had our own place, there's no way I wouldn't be outside digging a hole. Just
My brother and
hiding
his wife, when
for
they
tornadoes.
built their house, they built a tornado closet, and it's a closet made out of concrete and galvanized steel because they didn't have a basement. And so they hide in this, and then it's got like special locks on the door and everything. It's crazy, but it works, I guess, for them.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Shipwreck? Now's the time to ask away. Now's the chance. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Well, you know what?
Probably not.
It's my first episode back in like a year, so I'm kind of knocked out of the algorithm. Not everybody knows we're even doing shows yet, which is kind of a bummer. But
That's all right.
so Scott wants
Scott
to know
wants to know.
what would be an opinion on how to get everyone back to center or question everything.
I think that really starts with you. I think people still get so damn triggered. And I realized this when the Israeli war started, the quote unquote war. Because people automatically fell right back into the propaganda. And there was some, and you all can fight me. There was. People automatically fell right back into it. I think people have not worked on themselves enough to where they're projecting their own insecurities and trauma into their political opinions and their views. I think that's going to start with you going back and really starting to work on yourself.
Yeah,
And we just haven't got
we
there
all
yet.
need to become, we need to eat better too. We got to take better
Mhm.
care of ourselves. I mean, they are, and that's something else we could talk about is all this junk that they're putting in our food. I mean, how is
Mhm.
it even legal?
It's
These
not in a lot of countries.
it's not. And a lot of countries,
Not.
I mean, look at the ingredients of like Doritos in Europe or even
Mhm.
oatmeal, instant oatmeal. Instant oatmeal is so bad for you. I don't think people understand how bad our instant oatmeal is. Our instant oatmeal is the worst. It's not even legal in a lot of places. Like you're not allowed to eat it at all. So I would say, you really got to be careful what you're putting in your body. And it's really important to ground with the earth. You need to get out there every once in a while on your bare feet and walk around the grass. What it does to your molecules and your cells is awesome.
Yeah.
It literally charges your body, literally, almost instantly.
Yep. There's a saying that goes, if you feel like everybody hates you, you need to sleep. If you hate everyone, you need to eat. And if you hate yourself, then you need to go outside.
All right, awesome.
That's what
So
they say. Ground.
Scott with another question. Do you think this uptick in these monster storms government related, weather weapons per se?
I think that that's tough because I
mean, they are
monster storms
manipulating
have
the
been
weather. I mean, we know that. They've admitted to it in Dubai.
Yeah, they did. They overseeded the clouds.
They
You read about that?
literally
That's why
said
they had that
that.
big flood. Yeah, they
They said that.
literally said it. Um, I do to a certain point. I do to a certain point think that they manipulate the weather. Yes. And I think maybe more so than we even realize.
I don't think they're doing it here as a weapon per se on purpose. I think it's going to have a lot of consequences that are unforeseen that we're just going to have to deal with. That they're experimenting. That's what happens. They're obviously trying to get rain in the deserts, but it's making like rain in Northern California go away, which is causing fires. I mean, the Earth, you just can't create a weather pattern and then not have it affect the rest of the planet. It's the butterfly effect. Yeah.
It's like they're creating their own climate crisis and then getting us to pay more taxes in order to stop it. It's the weirdest thing. The weirdest thing.
Yeah. Top says drink filtered water. I just dropped my glass.
Yeah, we drink filtered water.
I boil my water. Every bit of water that we use in this house, we boil first. And
do you really?
Yeah, we get it. I mean, it comes out of the Tennessee River, I guess, our drinking water, and I'm sure it's fine or whatever. But we boil it anyway because I'm not as optimistic as you are. You're very optimistic.
I am. I think that's a key role. I think it's a key role in all of this. Like, yeah. I think that you can change the way you eat. You can change the way you drink. You can do all of those things, right? You can move off the grid and grow your own food, and you can do all the things. But if you are still living in a lower vibration where you are constantly letting shit from the news keep you down, like, you're never going to get better. You're just not. I think the way that people think and the way that they react to situations they have no control over detrimentally affects their health. I think your anxiety can be managed by simply turning the fucking news off. And I've done it. I've turned, when my anxiety gets really bad, I will put my phone down and I'll walk away. And sometimes I'll do it for a whole day, a couple days. And it doesn't take long before I start going back to normal again. But we're so upset.
That's probably not a bad idea. Maybe that's why I just have such a negative outlook on things. It's dragging me down into a lower vibration. In fact,
that's the point. That's the point of it. Yep. And they want you apathetic and they want you feeling in that lower vibration, because people in a lower vibration, they get depressed. And when they get depressed, well, what's the point? We're not going to fight. What's the point? They'll still beat us. They'll just beat us. They'll just cheat. They'll just steal the next election. Like, I can't deal with those people. I can't be around you if you're like that. There's always hope. As long as I'm clinging to hope, there's always hope. Is it going to be hard? Probably, but there's still going to be hope. And as soon as you lose hope, man, we're done. And I'm just not ready to be done yet. I look at the whole COVID thing with a very positive outlook too. I know people lost their businesses. Shitty deal, right? Real shitty. That's a shitty deal. Kids are behind in school. It's a shitty deal. But you know what else happened is parents started to realize what their kids were learning in school because they kicked their kids out of school. People started to realize just how much their company that they poured their blood, sweat, and tears into doesn't care about them. People were starting to wake up to the fact that big pharma is manipulating and cheating people for financial gain and hurting people and killing people for financial gain. Everybody started to wake up to all of these things, and now people are walking away and they're finding alternatives, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. I'm here for it. Fucking A. Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably a lesson I'm going to take walking away from this interview, is to not be so negative. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
We can't, right, man. You can't.
Sonia Brown, Chief Mate says, not a question for Ship because the crew knows her front to back, but conflict. Can you tell the crew more about you? I mean, I guess there's not really much to know. I mean, I just host shows. We do a lot of, we talk to all kinds of people about all kinds of different things. I feel like I have a muzzle over my mouth a lot of the times, and a lot of questions I want to ask that I can't ask, but I try to work around that and ask them anyway, and I just deal with the consequences as they come. Hopefully the channel doesn't get taken away from me, but it is what it is. We've been doing podcasts now for about 5 years. We built up quite a bit of following, and we just now coming back from taking a year off from from all of the, like, stress, just to try to become more positive. And maybe that's not what I did. Maybe I just become a little bit more negative in the outlook on things. But maybe I should look at the bright side a little more. But you're definitely a lot more optimistic than I am. So
It's hard not to, though. It's hard not to be super pessimistic when every goddamn headline out there is just telling you how the world's going to shit. And then every influencer out there is telling you that nothing matters and you shouldn't vote and nobody, there's just no good news because good news doesn't get your clicks, likes, and views.
now here's a good point here from Puck Elf. He says there are more dams now than with more incompatible people upstream. Downstream, you have corrupt banks and plenty zoning, housing, land with poor infrastructure. I'm not really sure where he's going with that, but I was looking at a map of what the United States would look like if all of the dams were broken, and I first off, I think that map is complete garbage. I don't think that it would be like that at all. What do you think of releasing all these dams? Do you think that would be bad?
I think it sucked for quite a while. So I live in a place that just had their 100-year flood a couple years ago, probably 10 years ago now. And it flooded the whole city. I think it would suck for a while, but I think people would build around it and people would work. I mean, we used to be all ice at one point too. I think if they released all the dams, it would suck. It'd kill a lot of people, right? But people would build around it. Humans, man, they'll prevail. They just will. The river will take its natural shape and the way that it's going to go, and people will prevail. I guess I don't worry about things like that because, like I said, we had ours. Our dam didn't fail, but it was so over flooded that they had to open it up, and it flooded everybody lower from Yankton on down. Flooded everything. Flooded up to Omaha, and it was bad. Like people lost their homes and people lost their businesses, but now those businesses are back and those homes are back, and I think it would be fine eventually. But I think it would suck in the interim.
Yeah, I think we would lose a lot of power too from. I think a lot of those dams we get power from. Scott says, "Conflict, you're doing a great job here. Thanks for hosting us. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much, Shipwreck, for coming on. It's a
You bet.
real
Thanks for
honor
having
to
me.
have you here. So, you guys,
You
if
bet.
you want, subscribe to the channel. Check me out. Follow me on X or Twitter or whatever. And you never know. Maybe one day I'll get a guest or a topic that you like. We do something different every week. We talk about a different topic or a different, have a different guest on every week. Tomorrow we're talking to Scott Mitchell about fallen angels, and Thursday we're going to be talking to Brad Olson about Antarctica. So, I think we've got some dream stuff coming up. We've got all kinds of stuff already scheduled for the next 2-3 months are already completely booked on Conflict Radio, and it's such a wide, different variety of people. But no, I'm not going to have any Democrats on. I'm looking to see if there's any more questions here. So you got anything you want to say to try to boost people's morale while I scroll through this? What advice would you give somebody who's just now waking up, who's just now seeing what's going on? What would be the number one thing you would tell them to focus on right now?
Themselves. 100%. Yourself. If you are just now waking up and you are realizing that everything that you've learned was a lie, you need to start focusing on yourself before you start projecting your trauma out onto other things. You can't see the forest through the trees if you are still suffering from your own trauma, if you're still suffering from your own mental health. And I guess you need to work on yourself. That's the biggest thing. You have to. You can't change anybody else. Work on yourself. And then the second thing is if you feel yourself starting to be afraid or anxious or angry and you're reading the stuff and you're fired up and you're like, fuck these men, put the phone down. Because it's being done intentionally to get that reaction out of you. Okay. That's exactly what they want. Put the phone down, think about it for a while and articulate it in a way that's not emotional. And then if you still feel like you need to respond, then respond or type it out or whatever. But remember that a lot of what you're seeing right now is being done to garner an emotional response. And if you're falling for it, and I have too, I've done it, right? I've gotten pissed. I've made my videos. But if it's affecting your mental health, man, walk away for a little while. You're not going to miss out. Nothing's going to change.
Mental health is something that's a whole nother rabbit hole itself we could dive down. That a lot of the problems in this country, I think, as far as mental health is concerned, is the fact that our waterways are absolutely contaminated with all of this medicine that people are taking, and then it's not all being used. It just goes right back through the sewer system into the water, and then people drink it.
Mhm.
I
Food.
think there's food and
I think it's
water and
food.
yeah.
Food will affect your mental health in ways I think not enough people understand.
And I don't think people are looking at Roundup as close as they should. There's chemicals in Roundup that are a lot of people like to blame, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it. A lot of people like to say that autism is created from these childhood vaccines and this, that, and other thing.
Mhm.
I don't think that that's the case at all. I've talked to a couple doctors, and I've talked to them, and they've pretty much said, look, this is the Roundup. It's Roundup that's doing this. Because
Mhm.
whenever a mother is pregnant, all of the waste goes to the fetus. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that. I've had 3 kids.
Okay. I had no idea. I had no idea. I had
Yep.
no idea. So everything bad that you take is gonna go right to the fetus. It's gonna
Yep.
your body just dumps all of that bad stuff right into there. And it's Roundup. Roundup is a big problem. I think we're not looking closely enough at Roundup, and I think that we need to. I think that
Yeah.
that's a big deal. These vaccines that they created a long time ago were very good for you. I mean that they saved millions of people. I mean, I'm not promoting them. I think it's way too young for a 3-month-old to take 20 different things. I think maybe wait until the kid's 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever is probably not a bad idea. But I
Mhm.
think that there were some good stuff back then, but I don't think we're paying attention to Roundup as much as we should. It's causing a lot of problems,
Bet. I agree.
and maybe some
So,
people should look into that. And dandelions are medicine. It's funny how they make dandelions. Like if you have dandelions in your yard, that's a bad thing, right? We need to get out there with the poison and kill the dandelions. Why? Dandelions are so good for you. You can make tea, you can eat them. I mean, you could live off dandelions if you had to. I mean, they're really good for you. And they set up a society to where we should kill them. That's the whole big pharma thing. A lot of that natural remedies for stuff that they pushed out of schools for funding back in the 1880s or 1890s or whatever it was, when big pharma started taking over our educational system.
yeah,
And until we wake up to that and get back to some of these natural remedies, we're in big trouble. We've got
agreed.
to do something about the pharmaceutical industry. It's absolutely run amok, and they're buying up all of their ideas, all of the just the general things in our lives that you think, like if you have an earache, if you have an ear infection, if you chop an onion in half, put it in a sock, and hold it on your ear all night while you're sleeping, just rest
Mhm.
your head on the onion, your ear infection will be gone in the morning. Did you know that?
Mhm. I've heard that, yeah.
That works. That works. But, you can't do that. You gotta go to the doctor, give them a couple $100, and go down to the pharmacy and give them some money, and that'll take care of your earache. All you gotta do is go into your fridge and cut an onion in half. It's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life. We're
Right.
really ignoring a lot of the natural remedies to things and giving them our money, and that's sad.
It is.
All right, so you wanna tell everybody where they can find you? We're just gonna go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, you guys, I do most of my stuff on TikTok at shipwreck.show or shipwreck_show. And then I post a lot of stuff on X too, and that's just at Shipwreck Show. We're also on Instagram, which is just at Shipwreck Show. And then we do have a YouTube, but like I said, I just post it there for now. We might start doing the lives at the end of the summer. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But mainly TikTok, mainly X. Come follow us. I love you guys. Thanks for being here.
All right, awesome. And I do have one more question that I almost forgot to ask. It's kind of a
Yeah,
tradition that we started on the show. We ask every guest. Are you ready?
you bet.
Do you know who Corn Pop is?
Isn't that Joe Biden in it?
Corn Pop is a bad dude.
He's a bad dude. Wasn't that an Uncle Corn Pop? I don't remember now. I remember him standing there telling the story.
That's the question. We had you're talking about polls. We did a poll the last time I went live here, just I don't know, last week or so, if we should still do the Corn Pop question, and a lot of people laugh. A lot of people don't have any idea who Corn Pop is. A lot of people do.
Oh, really?
It's a
It's
lot
Joe
of fun.
Biden.
It's not Joe Biden. It's like his bully.
Well, yeah. No, it wasn't. I thought it was like his uncle or something. It was his
No, no,
uncle.
no. It's like it was some gang leader he got into a fight with when he was
Who was Corn Pop?
Yeah, there
I
you go.
remember the story,
He's
but
a-
I thought it was like his uncle.
Yeah, he's a bad dude.
So Joe Biden's time as a lifeguard at the pool in Wilmington, which was prominently free. Yeah, he was just a bad guy. I guess he was.
He's a bad dude.
Shoot. Oh, he's a gang leader. All right. Yeah, you bet. That was good stuff.
All right. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for us, guys. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We'll be here 6:30 Eastern time or 7:30 Eastern time with Scott Mitchell. We're gonna talk about fallen angels, and he's definitely somebody that you're gonna want to get into. And we'll just talk to you then. Make sure you like and thumb up the video, subscribe, find me on X, find Shipwreck on X, and definitely give us a follow. And until next time, everybody, batten down the hatches and be safe.